Same dumpster.
Really?
I was like, we should probably this.
You should have.
I know I did.
You did.
I was like, somebody might want it, I know.
Yeah, also I just like it, who knows, maybe you turn down. That's definitely what happens.
Sure, I'm gonna stuff one of the day and just sort of clean it up.
Not usually a compliment to hear that.
I don't want to make it, but it's a huge loss.
I mean, it's actually,
The highest form of punishment.
actually never a compliment. In this case.
Alex knows that.
Complimenting your time.
Bond is the last word bond, maybe O P E D, O P E B, is it a something?
I don't know, I'd have to see like more than. Yeah.
So I've made a couple copies of the agenda over to the left, in teeny tiny print, sorry. And there's also a QR code you can just scan to pull it up on whatever. And with that already, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Guys, want to fill in? Yeah.
The village and town of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village and town further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The village and town of New Paltz encourages everybody to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting these sites. If you have resources that you believe should be included here, please contact us. Thank you.
Awesome. So I move to approve the village consent agenda, which is at the top, with the addition of authorizing Bernier and Larios engineers to release water distribution and wastewater collection system data directly to the Ulster County Planning Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I move to approve the village business agenda with the addition of a discussion of the village downtown historic preservation district law.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I add just a brief discussion about the Park Mobile questions we've been receiving and
Yeah.
just tee up a bigger conversation about that if we think it's necessary?
Sure, friendly amendment to add that Park Mobile discussion to our village business agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, now all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. And I move to approve the joint village and town business agenda as it is. All in favor? Aye. Cool. Announcements. There's a lot on the agenda, and some that aren't. So real quick, the Boy Scouts, had buried a time capsule 7 years ago in Peace Park, and they'll be digging it up. And I thought that was cool because today there was a big announcement from America 250 about, the nation's time capsule being buried now. That'll be buried for hundreds of years. So excited to see what they have. Check out the agenda for all these awesome upcoming, events from the community wellness program. Both the village and town are seeking volunteers for boards, commissions, et cetera. Reach out to us the way you know how. Juneteenth Jubilee is Friday, 3:30 p.m. Historic Huguenot Street. The parade kicks off at 3:00 p.m. from the Ann Oliver House at 5 Broadhead behind Stewart's. And it'll be awesome. I'll be tabling. And want to quickly pass the mic to Kitty to share an environmental update.
So Alex and I collected 54 signatures at our Stop Dirty Data Center's petition on Earth Day. And I mailed them in an envelope to Senate Majority Leader Cousins and Assembly Speaker Hasty and to Governor Hochul. And apparently our 54 handwritten signatures put this over the top because the legislature passed the Responsible Data Center Development Act. However, it still remains on Governor Hochul's desk, unsigned. So I'm going to ask that we indicate a phone number to call, which is to call Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390. And I'd like to make a motion that our town supervisor and village mayor send this message on official letterhead to the governor, which is, we are writing to urge the governor to sign the Responsible Data Center Development Act into law.
Second that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll just do it. After these messages. And then, yeah, I just wanted to share, thanks to Rich, wanted me to put more information at the top of these meetings. So here's some milling and paving going on. So Monday, the 22nd, there will be milling on Harrington Street, Wirtz Ave, and North Front Street. Tuesday, the 23rd, there will be Church Street, going on. And then the 24th, more Church Street action. Same thing with the next day, the 25th, and then 26th will be back on Wirtz Ave and Harrington with asphalt. And I put a little note here for some updates from our county legislators. They were texting me updates, but Bill Murray might make it, so I'll just save it if they come. They can just pop in at any time. Any other announcements from the table? Cool. So let's move into public comment. So I did have a sign-in sheet over there. Our intern, Edgar, no. Thank you. So.
He's your first speaker.
Awesome, perfect. So, that's a good model, actually, from now on, whoever wants to speak first, sign in first and bring the thing up. So just to set the game plan, thank you. We'll go through folks who signed in first, then like anyone who didn't sign up are welcome to go after that. Just make sure to state your name so our clerks can keep good records, keep it to brief-ish minutes and
Thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Edgar Rodriguez, resident of Equal. I'm here as the chair of the also activist Community Justice Committee. I'll provide copies and I hope they should enter it in the official record. The title is called Favoritism, Nepotism, and Racism. Nepotism and favoritism are surfacing as active as we peel back the questions of race in the Newport Police Department. For example, former police chief Robert Casey is related by marriage to police chief Matthew Sutton, according to local police officers. Lucchese highly recommended the son to be appointed as the new police chief in the spring of 2024. Currently, Lucchese is a major defender of Sutton, as you can see in the Hudson Valley One newspaper electronic article in the issue of June 14th. According to Milton's due process allegations by the public against Sutton, Lucchese claims in the article, I'm quoting, looking in from the outside, the former chief believes that proper procedures will follow in the cases that we have mentioned, particularly the case of Jerome Milton. I disagree because as a board member, I was not informed that Lieutenant Foucault was informally contacted by, was contacted about Detective Milton on February 19, 2025 by a local bar manager. I did not learn of an officer issue until the board was asked by the chief for administrative leave for Detective Milton on March 26, 25. Again, if there was a civilian complaint against or concern about Detective Milton, the board needed to be informed. The Board of Police Commission members heard in June 2025 from Chief Sutton that Milton was indicted by a grand jury and that he had nothing to do with it. So the proper procedure was not followed in the case by Sutton. According to local police officer Lucchese, also appointed Officer Antonio Facio, who is the son of Lieutenant Carmen Foucault, which further raises the concern of nepotism and favoritism. There was favoritism in the case of the 2024 appointment of Tyler Pace as a sergeant, because Detective Jerome Milton was not given the opportunity to apply for the sergeant position, and he was on the force. This is contrary to the June 14 Hudson Valley One electronic article, which stated Milton was interviewed for the sergeant's post. That is not
Just
factual.
start to wrap it up, please.
Okay, I have two more sentences.
Okay,
Milton did not interview for the sergeant position because there was no posting or email. In 2024, Milton filed a complaint against the supervisor's detective sergeant for the hostile work environment This may have precipitated the hostilities against Milton that eventually ended in an indictment. Later, he was vindicated on June 5th when the jury found him guilty on 5 counts. Finally, we hope that the second near-pass investigation will peel away at the above questions of nepotism and favoritism associated with questions of race, or as the board prefers to call, implicit bias. Please enter this statement in the official record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have extra copies here. Give them out, give them out.
I circulated that same note to.
But I don't have to throw the garbage, so.
No problem.
Yeah, if you can make sure I get one, I'll scan it after the meeting. And then
Yeah.
next up, we have Tom. Thank you.
I don't even want them again.
Right, it's Tom Jeff. Almost village living. Mostly for the town board, but, good evening. Start, I have 2 questions. First, why are Sergeant James and Officer Milton still on administrative leave despite the dismissal of James's disciplinary charges and Milton's acquittal? It's unfair to them and costly to the town. Any answers?
No, we're not answering those questions tonight, Tony.
Secondly, why is Matthew Stutton still on active duty during the pendency of the near pass investigation? In his position, he can undermine the investigation. And there is the question of equity vis-a-vis the 2 officers who are all administrative after months. But I would also like to respond to ex-chief Lucchese's comments, which Edgar quoted. Are you aware that there never was a formal complaint in this case? It all started with Lieutenant Foucault taking a call on his personal phone from the alleged victim's friend, the restaurant manager, who was seeking advice. Proper procedure, I believe, is to take the complaint from the actual alleged victim on an official recorded line or on paper at the station. As we learned at the trial, the information provided from the lieutenant, besides being only hearsay, lacked any real substance. Extensive trial evidence turned out no threatening words or behavior. Officer Milton was shown to be only civil and considerate over several years of texting with the alleged victim. Just as a note, after the verdict, jurors expressed how little difficulty they had with him on all charges. Nevertheless, Chief Sutton made the referral to the DA based only on the initial hearsay information. He took no action to confirm the allegations or assess the integrity of the accuser. Such a referral may not be illegal or improper in and of itself, but because you can do something, doesn't mean you should do something. And please don't think this is standard procedure that is followed every time a police officer is accused of something. There were no referrals in the case of Officer Knote, who would beat a bleeding citizen in the back of his patrol car, or in the recent case of Officer Redmond, who came to work drunk. There are 2 scandals here, in my opinion. On the one hand, the initial referral to the DA. On the other, the fact that the DA took and pursued the case. This certainly smells like someone asking for a favor to help get rid of an uncomfortable officer and somebody else granting that favor, as DAs are known to do to maintain good relationships with local police chiefs.
Could you please wrap it up?
Yep.
Thank
That
you.
sentence. DA Nagy must have been so embarrassed about this case that he decided not to assign it to an assistant, but to try it himself in person. Can you imagine the embarrassment that he went through? Thank you.
If you'd like, all of the information and the complaints regarding Milton are now foilable. So if you wanted to foil what you're referring to,
Okay.
you could definitely do that.
All right, next we have Howard, followed by Larry on deck.
Members of the village and town boards. My name is Howard Ball. I am the labor relations specialist with CSEA. I represent the village of New Paltz employees in the CSEA bargaining unit. I'm here to at least initially speak on the consolidation plan. This originally started as a dissolution plan. The concerns that we raised back when that was going on are the same concerns that we have now. In terms of the two different bargaining units. There's things that I read through the draft that neither of these boards can guarantee. There is another bargaining unit, that represents the town employees. That bargaining unit has to agree to anything with respect to any of these other employees coming into their bargaining unit as it pertains to salary benefits, vacation accruals, sick leave accruals, where they fall in seniority for using those accruals. This board, both boards, can't guarantee that. And if you are genuinely intending to hold these employees harmless, there's nothing to prevent you right now from negotiating that with this other bargaining unit. And putting those things in place, you can put them in as a contingency. And I think if there was a true plan to in fact incorporate those village employees into the town without losing many of the things that they negotiated and gave up to gain over the years of their employment, there's nothing to prevent you from approaching that other bargaining unit as the town and negotiating those things in place now in the event that these employees do become town employees. So I think it's disingenuous to say in the draft that you're gonna do these things, most of which you can't guarantee. Additionally, I sent a freedom of information request for the bargaining agreements for that particular bargaining unit back on May 19th. I sent it electronically. Haven't received any response from it other than my request was received, so I don't know, Tim, if you can
I don't
look into
I
that.
don't need a FOIL. I'll make sure you get it.
Okay, I appreciate
No
that.
problem, Howard.
When
And,
you-
and thanks for the suggestion.
Sure.
So we're beginning negotiations with the highway unit because their contract will expire 12/31 of 26. So we can definitely do that. We can include this provision that you're recommending. So
Okay.
thanks for the suggestion.
Sure, the consolidation is gonna be decided before that contract comes up.
Oh, but the contract could be signed before the consolidation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Larry B is next, followed by Maggie D. If- Oh, sorry. Thanks, Maggie.
Hello, I'm Larry Badendyke, and again, I object to the seating here. There are people here, and I believe that a town board should have a conversation, not only with you, with everyone and the gentlemen here. Okay, from background, I was raised in Montgomery, 45 in my graduating class. I can milk a cow and cut chicken's head off. I am working class, and that's part of my identity here. But I was concerned with a number of things. First of all, the idea, and it's rotten propaganda, that somehow a number of us are against the police. I am not anti-police. I have them in my family, and I come from a family of truck drivers and et cetera. I began my teaching career at John Jay College of Criminal Justice when all the cops were there and were Vietnam veterans getting, yes, okay. So I had no problem with them. I had one problem with them, which was not their fault. I was assigned to a station house and I had to go all the way up to 20. And the cops would look hostile, and that was weird because I'm generally comfortable with these people. And finally I said, well, what's going on? And the guy said, at least if you had a psychology professor who came out here and told it was okay to fuck dogs. Okay, there they are, lined up there like, all the blue ones in there. But no, we got along well, and I liked it, and everyone did, and people got along. That was okay. That was my beginning of class warfare, of working class against. A few years ago, I was out there on our driveway. My son was in his wheelchair, a power chair, and one of his cats was there. My wife, and then this raccoon comes stumbling around. Clearly, a rabbit, raccoon. Well, we got people safely, we called the cops, they came in, the cops shot them and dispensed of it, we were relieved. I've had every incident, my reaction with the police has been in fact positive. I have a younger brother who worked for IBM, was laid off, couldn't find anything. He became a corrections officer and was grandpa's. His son now is just retired as a sergeant. He was a correction officer. These are my people, and I don't think any of them has been against police as a general thing. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't reasons for argument. Of course there are. I just picked up the paper and then, yes, what do you want to do? You want to cut my time down? You're looking at me.
Oh, actually, I'm sharing, and you're right, though, you're just about at 3 minutes, so if you can start wrapping up, that'd be great.
Give another 30 seconds.
30 seconds, Larry.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. I am not anti-police, but I think I know that police can be as rotten as anyone. When I worked with them, the idea was that the crime rate was as serious as among ordinary people of us. And that's something that has to go. I was offended when I got here the other day, and I'm coming out there and it looked like a terrorist attack because all these guys were there with their guns and their saber swords and whatever they carry. And then I came in and they were lined up. What were they there for? Who authorized them? That sounds to me offensive, and I'm all in favor of a discussion with anyone who wants to go, including my enemies. I'm allowed to make, I checked with my accountant, I can make a number more enemies this month and I'm allotted, and but okay, I'll leave you off here on the one. But if anyone wants to talk to me about cops, about anything else, I'm open to it. I believe in conversation, and I think you should set this place up so we can converse with everyone. Okay, there they are.
Thanks. Thanks, Larry. Maggie, you're up next. Maybe we'll rearrange furniture next time, who knows?
Yeah, okay, I'm Maggie Bebe, and I live in New Falls, as you all probably know at this point, obviously. And I'm here for two reasons. One, I was very, it was interesting to me, the last meeting, where all the police officers come. And, you know, I wonder where the police officers are now, when they find that the two people who they should be now defending, are not defending. But that doesn't matter. What was interesting to me was that all I heard was, I was raised with this person, I was raised with Sutton, we go to picnics together, we have our children together, we played together, we worked together, and that to me sounded like a lot of inbreeding. I mean, clearly what we're having here is we need a change in the practices we have as board members to try to define how we can change the practices. I know that the CSEA has their processes, but I'm sure that there are internal processes that you can create so that you wouldn't have this kind of inbreeding. You can't get somebody who raised with somebody unless they were kicked in the face when they were a kid by this person, to not support them. So I would like to, number one, identify that as something that I hope that you can really consider. We really shouldn't have so many people coming from the same town, from the same community. I think it just creates the kind of discussion that you ended up having to hear at the last meeting. You didn't need to hear all the great things about Sutton. In theory, you would have seen that in his evaluation somewhere. In any event, the other thing I want to talk about is I did ask to see if there's a possible resolution that you could create a resolution on Gaza and to stop the genocide. I do know that the village and the mayor supported that resolution. And I'm hoping the supervisor now will support that resolution and the rest of you, because the town really should do something about this. I mean, we can't afford the kind of money that's being spent to kill children. And I think that we really should take a position. There's a moral position, but there's also a financial position we could take. And I would like to, you know, for you to consider that. It just seems very reasonable. If the village did it, the town should be able to do it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Is my
Maggie.
time up?
Yeah,
Oh, good night.
I was about to be like, you're done. Okay, anyone else who didn't sign up that wants to make a comment, you can just come on up. Otherwise, with that, we'll hop into our first agenda item. And in the meantime, I realize we are streaming to the alternate Village of New Paltz YouTube. I don't know how that happened, but it's at least recording to the cloud and it is streaming. And I did share it out on Facebook quickly. We'll figure that out for next time. So, we'll just jump into our standing village and town consolidation agenda item. We have expert Scott Minkoff from the Benjamin Center here. There's a bunch of village staff. I don't know if there's any town staff, but anyone who wants to kind of help frame, maybe Scott, the discussion, you come on up. Also no pressure. And village folks, if like, you're welcome to join. I just hate the idea of limiting you guys to 3 minutes. So at any point, feel free. Yeah, so.
Scott, do you want to just come to the table and maybe just give us a very brief summary of, you know, the most recent discussions regarding the steering committee?
Yeah, I'm Scott Minkoff. I'm from the Benjamin Center at SUNY New Paltz, and I've been helping, I've been along for the ride, we'll say, with the village and town as you endeavor on this consolidation. I want to note that our position continues to be one of just trying to help this along, make it a community process, one that's productive and healthy and hopefully gets New Paltz to a place that's, you know, better, which is what I think everybody wants, even if there's some disagreement on how best to get. I think we're at, you are all at a very interesting point. You have a draft agreement. That draft agreement is now, you know, it's public. Everybody can see it. And there's going to be 3 public hearings, including one coming up fairly soon, beginning of July, at the middle school, followed by 2 more. The process for adopting this joint consolidation agreement is slightly different than you just passing a local law. It is prescribed in state code, so you have to follow that process. But one of the things that's a little different about it, that is, I would say, useful, is that you can continue to work on this document now, essentially. I would advise waiting until you get a little bit more public comment, but beyond that, right, you can be working on it. So we can incorporate public opinion, whether it comes in at the hearings or via email, and both of those are options. And you should continue to think through how you're going to proceed with this document and what can be added effectively. I think it's really important that there was a unanimous vote in favor, at least one person is absent, right? In favor of this going to public hearing, which is different than adopting it. But the point there is that you now sort of own this thing, and you need to sort of operate with it as if you own it, and, you know, make the changes you think will best get you there within the confines of state law. Some things to just keep in mind as you continue to think about this. One is that Benjamin Center and LaBerge have put together a number of resources for you that are aimed at making this understandable and explainable. Really, they're for your constituents, but they're for you too. I encourage you to share those, use them. They aim to both explain the document, what it can and can't do, and also dispel myths, we'll say, about what can happen. For example, we've talked many times about the water issue. We don't need to go into it again, but we produced a very short one-pager to make sure everybody understands what happens with water, and sewer for that matter. So that stuff is available to you. You should encourage your constituents to attend hearings, learn about it, submit questions online. And then I think you should remind them that there's gonna be a vote here. And that vote is two different votes. It's a, you know, it's a donut hole and donut vote, right? And both need a majority for this consolidation effort to pass. That ballot question will be on whether to consolidate. That's not up to you. It's not, the state law specifically says what the ballot question should be, or sort of points you in that direction, and that is, should consolidation happen? And the joint consolidation agreement sort of underlies that effort. I'm happy to take any questions if that's helpful. I'm also happy to step back if others want to come up.
Hey, Heather.
Yes,
Thank you for the one pager on water.
yes.
We mentioned at one of these meetings that everybody's water rates would go down as a result of consolidation. So, that was not what you said? I thought you said that 100%. Did I misunderstand you?
Town water district rates would go down. Village water rates would go up. That's the offset.
Okay, so maybe.
Assuming that you have the same expenses to pay for the entire municipal water system.
Okay, I appreciate that verbal clarification, but could we squeeze that into your one pager?
I think, so there has been some concern about stating that like that, if only because it is based, water rates, as I understand them, are essentially based on, usage, thank you, that was lost
They're
for a
also
second.
based on location.
Yes, exactly, but, I think there's some concern about putting essentially what amounts to be a usage rate plus fee into a document when, for something, for water rates 3 years from now. I am happy to work with both Verge and.
I mean, we could say something like, if we took like last year's expenses and revenues and we're spreading it differently, where instead of it being siloed the way it currently is siloed, if it was paid for by one large group, that is effectively how the rates would work. Town water district rates would be less and village water rates would be higher, so you end up with the same exact revenue picture.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation, but I'm not understanding how 250 outside the village users, get put together in one district. So I.
250
Well, right, they're individual.
They'll all remain in their own
Water
individual
district,
town water districts.
will remain their own water district.
And the village will become its own hamlet water district. It'll become a town district. It's not that complicated. It's very straightforward.
Essentially, you'll have a village water district and you'll have your remaining town water districts. They'll all be managed by the new town, essentially managed by the town, but they still have different boundaries. Right, in theory, a future town board could combine them into a district, but that would create some complicated sort of debt and, you know, it's
Super simple, right? So say it costs $100 to run the entire municipal system. And the way it's currently split, $90 is paid for by the village and $10 is paid for by the town. And that's because of the way the rates are spread. So if you spread the rates differently, and you move to something where now the village is paying $81 and the town is paying, or $91 and the town is paying $9, that's how this would work.
Okay, I'm more interested in if the Hampton Inn, which is a town outside the village user, is paying $100 because they're a big user, and then some individual person is paying $5. How is that gonna change?
That will not change. Those ratios would stay exactly the same.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Do you keep minutes of your steering committee meetings?
No, but
Because
we have agendas.
we haven't even seen those. We got a pretty substantial bill from the Verge for attending those meetings. So in the future, if you could, somebody could keep minutes. I've submitted questions and Lauren took the trouble to actually respond to one of them. But a lot of us submit questions to our liaison, and we don't know where they go.
So
So
to
we
be
go
clear, those,
to the Q and A section on the
Yeah.
village website, where I just realized we get billed every time we're answering one of those questions.
well,
So,
I'm answering the questions for what
Well,
it's
no,
worth.
Laverne is definitely billing us every time someone asks questions, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's going through.
I was not aware of that.
Well, it makes perfect sense, right? We're not volunteers.
No, I didn't, we got a $450 bill.
Every time we call Will Frank, every time we call any consultant.
I checked the Q and A page a lot,
Sure,
and my one question was there, and there was an
and
answer,
there's 3 more that I submitted today to be posted.
but we haven't been billed for them yet.
I can't answer that,
Right.
but including today we put in, and I can send it to you directly, your answer to your question about the financial tables. There was another question about, I'm sorry, they're blurring together. But there was, there were 1 or 2 others from you, there were 2 from, there were 3 other questions from other New Paltz residents. All of those will be going up on the website this week.
I guess we have not yet been billed for, because this bill is from, May. But okay, so I do think that the Q and A section of the Laverne site is really crucial, because that's where you see a written response. So if we need to pay for that, it's the cost of consolidation.
Yeah, to your point about the minutes, there are agendas that, could be potentially shared out or something, but usually like working groups. Like steering committees don't necessarily, they're not required by law to take minutes.
And that's something that I've been troubled by since we started the steering groups a year ago. When we had the finance and the planning and all of those groups. And we have a record of emails of them, and we have minutes, but they've never been made public. And I think they would be really helpful to help us.
Because there are no minutes.
Well, we have, Ariana sent us minutes.
Okay. But we're trying to have like meetings with the steering committee, the attorneys, the consultants that we've hired. We have an agenda. We're not trying to like create a whole new documentation. The JCA, the 1-pagers, that's your documentation. Those are effectively your minutes.
Right, but we don't know how they.
You're suggesting that there's some other things being discussed. There's nothing being discussed except what is being illustrated in every single 1-pager.
Well, it's also a bit of a question of like trusting our liaisons, like Lauren is the point person for this committee from the town board, and that position is imbued with a certain amount of trust to her, to be taking your questions, taking all of our questions and going and discussing them, which I believe she's doing.
I have no doubt that she's doing that. The question is, we submit these questions, and what I'm learning now is that sometimes they generate a 1-pager. But we don't know what your process is for when we submit our questions.
They either generate a 1-pager or they generate an answer to the question.
I've answered one answer.
You've submitted, I believe, 4 questions, and by the end of tomorrow, you'll have answers to all of them online. Lengthy answers at that. Beyond that, I think that some of the 1-pagers have come from just, we think this is an issue. There was no submitted question about the fire departments, for example, but we knew that was an issue, so we just produced a 1-pager. We did the same for taxes, we did the same for a number of them, or you can chime in, but questions get answered. 1-pagers come out if we receive enough questions, or if the question feels particularly salient, we produce a 1-pager. The 1-pagers are a delicate balance because we don't, at the point in which we create 51-pagers, they cease to be sort of useful, useful. They become longer than the actual document, right? But, if you think it's of community concern and it's not sufficiently explained within the JCA, let Lauren know, let me know, you have my email, right? You can, and, we'll think about the best way to communicate
Yeah,
that,
thank you.
right? I mean, if there's particular things that are missing, it's worth, getting that stuff clarified. You sent me your document from last week or 2 meetings ago. I'm still working my way through that one,
Okay,
right? But that's a little separate than
yeah,
the officially submitted questions.
yeah, I think what I'm looking for is just how you got there. And I am having trouble understanding how the numbers for the tax decrease, what the raw data is for that. But I don't want to derail tonight's conversation. I'm sure we'll get there at some point.
That's like one of the cool things about, or I don't know. Yeah, I guess, okay, one of the cool things about like the process too is like once the document's kind of like prepared in the state it is now, and we're moving into the public hearing mode, it belongs to everybody to like pick apart and like offer changes and questions and all of that. And like, I honestly was really eager to kind of get out of the working mode, to just kind of put it into everyone else's hands. Like, it's not in my hands anymore. So hopefully we'll be able to dig into, questions you have and everyone has, and if they can be answered per law, hopefully we can address them. And if not, hopefully we can find other ways to address them too, kind of like some of the labor issues that were mentioned earlier.
And I'd just like to speak to the process and that, there's our meetings every Wednesday, but then there's emails and texts and just information going back and forth, all we trying to get to answer, to get to clarification on. And Kathleen, for instance, from LaBerge, is writing these very long emails, in depth, doing research, getting back to us. I mean, I'm observing professionalism and an immense amount of work being done by.
And what you're saying is part of what has prompted me to ask these questions, because we just, we got a lot of these bills, which reference all of these memos with LaBerge and Elaine and email. And we're not sharing.
Because we are sharing them, right? So the one pagers, the JCA, those are your, no, stop interrupting me. Those are your deliverables. You get invoices and then you get deliverables. Those are your deliverables. Those are your meeting minutes. Those are everything that you're asking for. There's nothing else that we're building that exists somewhere else that you can't see. Everything that we're building, everything that's being delivered is public, is available, is stuff that you can review. Oh my goodness, it is absolutely true. What do you think is going on at these steering committee meetings? They're not that fun. We're just discussing nuts and bolts about Article 7. You can see the memos, read the one pagers, read the JCA, those are your deliverables.
That's not what we're getting billed for. But in essence, it is because, right, like, we're talking to, if they're talking to, and correct me if I'm wrong, labor attorney, but, union has come up and we're trying to pay as much attention to that as possible. So there's a lot of other conversations that need to occur that are going into answering questions on the website or a one pager that Scott and Lydia were.
Can I
don't.
oh, go ahead.
Please, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I just want to request the opportunity to have a conversation about the innovation. If we can conclude the questions around the process and what you're, I think, sharing is a lack of transparency around what's being made there, I would appreciate that.
Okay, I think that's what I just said.
I said that you were suggesting there's lack of transparency. I'm asking us if we could conclude this conversation as a board so that we can continue to talk about the issues. So has this conversation been exhausted, Madam Chair?
Does everyone feel heard enough for tonight on the issue of trust, I guess, and transparency?
Transparency. I don't think there's any problem with trust.
Okay.
I would just like to see more on data.
Okay, so let's kind of, thank you. Let's pick our way through some other consolidation issues. Alan, you want to say something?
I apologize for being a few minutes late. Seems like the issue of the village
staff is for, say, for me, for other people, the primary issue with consolidation right now. In terms of it seems like that's the primary thing that needs to be resolved in some positive way. And so the union representative just came up with an idea, Tim's on board with getting information and processing that. Hopefully that will move things forward in a positive way. But if you, at some point, develop a one pager that says, okay, here are the issue, I know it's discussed and there's a lot of reassurances and stuff like that, but it seems like that's like the key issue.
We have one, it's, I think probably go out,
Yeah, it's ready to go.
it's right here.
This is not the last one, this like, but the previous,
There's nothing wrong with sharing that with him,
Okay,
for
cool.
sure. That
Um,
is I think that is
it's,
actually.
it's missing one sentence in it, I think.
No, it's got,
No?
it's got, it's,
Oh, it's got it. Okay, this is one, sorry.
It seems like that's where the residents of the village have the most to lose and where the employees of the village have the most to lose. So, I mean, that's where the concern is, right?
Sure.
That's what we're trying to address because as a resident, you don't want to lose this great team of people.
Sure.
And that organization that's not so easy to recreate. And then, of course, there's a commitment to historic, legal commitment to group of individuals who have done a lot for everybody, and we want to respect that commitment.
Yes, I can't speak to union issues directly, those are really for union members and union leaders to speak to. It feels just a tad outside my purview, but I will say that under New York state law, that includes both the Taylor law, which sort of governs state employees, including myself as a professor at New Paltz, and under the Gen 17A, which is the law that sort of structures consolidation. All village employees by law transfer over to the town with their existing contracts in place. That is what the law says, that is what the law is. And that one pager reiterates that both in plain language and directly quotes the JCA. And the relevant language. The actual negotiating of contracts is a union issue. That's the sort of part I'm uncomfortable speaking about. But it is pretty straightforward. That is what happens under this law. Had you pursued dissolution, that wouldn't have been the case. Those employees' jobs could have, as I understood, could have been picked up by the town, but did not. But under the consolidation process, the town simply absorbs those contracts.
Right, but we just got a bill for $2,500 for negotiations for discussions with our town labor attorney. I don't know if the village, I don't know if Howard was privy to any of those discussions, but
No.
I'm not sure who
We've talked to numerous labor attorneys to understand what is involved.
well.
The village spoke with labor attorneys in 2025. We've spoken with labor attorneys at the beginning of this year. We regularly talk with our general counsel about this topic. So we
Specifically about union negotiations.
100%.
Village employees.
100% correct.
Well, first of all, I'm not understanding why we're paying an attorney for that whole discussion instead of at least starting with a discussion.
Because we want to understand what we can do legally. That's why you hire lawyers.
Don't we want Howard and don't we want our union department heads in that room? So they can go home and say, now we understand.
We could certainly invite, and we've had individual meetings with the two unions. They can certainly sit together in a room and negotiate something. They can do that now. That's up to them. We're not going
Could
to.
I just,
Yeah,
CSEA has no ability to deal directly with the town as it relates to town employees. because they're covered by a different bargaining agreement with the union. So it would be a violation of law for CSEA to sit down with the town in discussions over potentially what could impact another bargaining unit, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
and that's what's been advised
So
to
the
us
only
by-
one that I can speak with is the village, because we have an agreement between CSEA and the village. The bargaining unit that represents the town employees is a different union. They have their agreement with their union and the town. I cannot communicate with the town on behalf of potentially what will be town employees. That would be improper because they're represented by a different bargaining. So that's what puts it in.
So it's illegal for you to sit down in a room with UPSU and say, here's what we have, here's what you have. Do they work?
I would think that the other bargaining unit would have to be on board with commingling that conversation. We don't have that relationship with them. But in terms of,
I mean, I'm trying to.
in terms of having the town there and CSEA there, when CSEA is not the recognized bargaining representative, I think that prevents, provides a big conflict.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow up on what you said, when you said there's nothing preventing you from doing this now. And so I thought that meant getting both unions in the same room together.
No, I think what I mean is to take the Village of New Paltz contract, whereby there are a lot of provisions that are much better than the town's contract with the town employees. And say to the town's union,
Already did that.
we want to put these things in your contract. And then when these village employees, if they do become town employees, those benefits will already be taken.
You need chair meeting and come
Well,
down.
I think it was, did you get the clarity?
Well, I
You
just
need
learned that
Kitty.
we've already done what you've asked for, so that's a step forward.
Awesome. Cool. So anything else on this subtopic with consolidation, or do we want to move on to other things, or we can revisit it? And I don't know if DPW guys wanted to say anything, you're just there, so, okay, feel free.
Yeah, I'd like to just say a couple things. Thanks for changing the subject to this topic, Alan. It's a really important one. I did have the opportunity to speak to staff from the DPW for a while last week. Just wanted to hear, after Kyle came in to speak to the board, I just wanted to hear their perspective and learn from them, and it was helpful to me. I think that you're right, Alan, that the personnel matters, and the ultimate structure of the organization that would be the consolidated town is a really important consideration. It's definitely the most human and, the one that involves the most human impact in many ways, and it's complex. I think there's also a theory that it could actually create opportunity for those with careers in the village and or the town. It's very often the case that a larger entity provides more opportunity for cross-training, promotion, and things that could be really positive. So I want to share that. But what I heard in my conversations there are things that we've heard here, which is just a question of whether that'll be a satisfying transition, some issues of fear around what that would look like, given that these are careers. I think it poses some retention risk to the combined municipality. And that would obviously have, pose a risk to services if it's not done well and in a way that really does fulfill all the promises that are in the consolidation agreement. So I think I just want to report, and I think it's in honor of the time they took to speak to me. I want to share on their behalf what some of the things I've heard. And some of the things that I think could be helpful. One is the thing that's been discussed already, which is how, there's a reference in the document to proactive communication and advanced planning, which are actually sections outlined very brief, cross-departmental planning, I think is what it's called. They're outlined super briefly. And I think those are two areas that we could expand on if we really want to build confidence in both the voters and the employees that this work is actually making more progress than the document would suggest it has. I think the one pager, which is I'm anxious to see, is also another thing we could do to help make sure to help make sure that that is a thing that informs the voters and our colleagues in the village that the progress is being made. I think the intention in the document is really clear. I just have never seen an example of this happening. And so maybe that's another example of something that we could explore, which is what is the model for the way this is intended to
It's
work?
not a good model. This would be the first,
There actually is a really good model. So it's very uncommon for consolidations to happen between towns, but it's very common with school districts. And there's a ton of, so when you have a contract between two communities where they're joining, like, so you have like, let's say New Paltz decided to join up with Highland. What they do is they bring the people in and they look at who has the best of the best. So for example, let's say Highland has 10 days off, the New Paltz has 7. Well, you go with Highlands, and then you say, well, which insurance is better? Oh, well, New Paltz is better. And we're like, well, who pays more? Oh, well, New Paltz pays more. Well, we're gonna go with Highland. And you basically go through the contract point by point, and whoever has the best deal, that's what you go with. Okay, because remember, this consolidation is not about firing anybody. This consolidation is not an economic one. That would be normal, like when you consolidate two businesses together, you usually trash a lot of people to try to increase profits. That's not what this is about. This has nothing to do with this. We are trying to, we're gonna take the best things that are happening in New Paltz and the best things that are happening in the village and the town. And whoever has the better one, put them together. We are currently talking to the town, at the town level. We're currently talking about that, and we said to them, hey, go to the village and see what you like in their contract, and we'll stick it in our contract. Okay, that's where we're headed. As a union person, I used to be on the other side, now I'm on management, it's a little weird for me, but I'm adjusting. I'm not gonna allow a union member to lose out, like that's not negotiable, I'm not gonna do that. I know that Tim feels the same way. I think everyone here at the board, we want our employees to stay. We're trying, there's an employee shortage right now. We don't want to have a situation where people are leaving. I don't want to lose any of our employees. I don't want to lose one person. So when we consolidate, you're going to get the best of the village and the best of the town. And then so you're probably going to like it a lot. Now, is there going to be some change? Yeah, you probably will get a better buyout for your health insurance if you're in one union. And if you're in the other union, your percentage might go down. But that's where we're headed. And that's the model that's been done a lot. Okay, and there is obviously language that people fought for over years and stuff like that. You have to work through it. Okay, but if your goal is to say, hey, we're trying to make this better, we're not doing this in a position of weakness. We're doing this in a position of strength. The town has money, the village has money. We're not doing this because we're broke. We're doing this because we want to make things better.
Very well said.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. And I think that the type of specifics that you're talking about here and the type of specifics that Tim referenced earlier are all things that I think will continue to build confidence.
Yes.
In the voters and hopefully in the team.
And also, I would also like to clarify too, there is nothing that can prevent a union person from coming and talking to me and asking me about questions. That's completely legal. I can talk to the automakers union about something and see how they're upset about it. There's negotiation can happen all the time. You just obviously can't have like lawyers there, but you can talk about it. And if there's concerns, we can work these things out. Like we're making it sound like, oh, we can't touch this. We can't. No, we can obviously, we can talk about it. And if we were a business, it'd be completely different. This would be a completely different situation. That's not where we're headed. Okay, this consolidation is never about trying to save money. It's about trying to be efficient and do the right thing.
Thank you, Sean.
I appreciate those examples from school districts and stuff. I've definitely been like looking in at my experience from years like with the New York State Legislature and our work with the New York State Legislative Workers Union that still has not gotten much headway, because of longstanding interpretations of Taylor's Law. And so I see some examples there that just make me more nervous. You know, which it's good to be nervous because it makes you do your due diligence, right? You know, when it comes to like just the government entities, like we just don't have a lot of examples because there's not been a consolidation of this kind before. So there is like that part still lingering, you know, which we'll have to all just keep working through.
Can I note one thing
Yeah.
on there hasn't been a consolidation of this kind? The reason there hasn't been a consolidation of this kind is not because it's like bad or it's just the opposite, actually. It is because it necessitates a lot of goodwill starting from the beginning. A dissolution does not require that. This is a process from my vantage that has tried to be as protective of village and town employees and dollars and resources as is possible. And I think the reason, and that is harder. That is definitely harder than just dissolving the village and saying, go deal with it, town. And so I just think it's worth noting that the reason you don't have models is because other villages have sort of opted for a much easier, but also less protective and thoughtful, in my opinion, path.
There's one more thing I want to say about this personal solution briefly, which is that, you know, I think we're talking mostly about the contracts and the issues that will come out of the consolidation related to the union and employment. And I want to just share that I think there's the other considerations. One of the things we talked about last time was the idea that this agreement moves us forward, but then the executive decision-making that makes it a reality still is very important. And one thing I want to make sure that we're not also losing sight of is even if we combine the employees under the perfect, most generous contract we can create, there's still some real investment that needs to take place in commitment to performance across the two new departments or the combined department. The culture of how those departments function, which is not the same culture potentially today. So I just want to highlight the importance of the idea that the contractual consolidation could be perfect. And we still also want to pay attention to the leadership requirement it will take to make sure that the teams come together and perform as effectively as they might separately.
I can share something that I think is really interesting that I've learned during the last 6 months. So I was village mayor for 10.5 years. I'm pretty familiar with the staff, the union, how this place functions. Very proud of the work that the staff, you know, whether it's union or non-union, takes on and the way they take pride in their work. And I definitely would say that I was suspect of town staff because I would hear things being an outsider, right? I'm probably one of the, I don't know, there may be other people who have been town supervisors and village mayors, there probably are. But I have very unique perspective at this point because I've sat at town hall for the last 6 months and witnessed the quality of work by the staff there. And whether it's union or non-union, I would say I'm very proud of the people there.
Great.
And I feel like I was a huge supporter of consolidation on December 31st. I'm an even bigger supporter now because of what I have witnessed in terms of the quality of the work and the quality of the commitment from the staff. And I think taking like the two cultures, which basically share a culture and that they take pride in serving this community and doing work properly and effectively. I think the marriage is pretty simple, pretty straightforward stuff.
Great for you. Thanks.
Anything else on our consolidation item for this
I
time?
want to say thank you for all the hard work of the committees and how grateful we are for the work that's being done and the products that are being produced.
Yeah, it's amazing.
A second.
You want to make a comment? Anybody?
Yeah.
Come on all the way out, come on all the way out. You have to come all the way out.
So that
It won't pick you up.
it just won't pick you up and Ari won't be like, get it right.
So I know most of the board know that I'm Joe Berneri, I'm one of the foremen down at the DPW. I've met Kitty before, I've never met any of you guys. The one thing that I guess I could probably speak for everybody is that this whole thing has been looming over village staff for the last 16 months. And it's just very uneasy for us not knowing what's gonna happen. And we, you know, Howard explained how things could go, and it still doesn't sit right with us. At the end of the day, town employees don't change anything, but village employees can lose a lot that we've all sacrificed a lot of things over the years. There's a lot of longevity in our department, and these are careers to us. I mean, half my life has been working here at the village, and a lot of other employees too. So, I mean, I just wanted to just say something just simple that, you know, it's been looming over us for a long time.
Joe,
Thanks.
I'm Lauren. Nice to meet you.
Same.
Do you mind sharing with me what some of your fears are? Because my understanding is that your contracts will remain in place, your jobs will remain in place. And I'm truly, you know, I came into this process curious, and now I'm in a place of very much for consolidation, but I am concerned about every employee, and I want to know.
I mean, I don't know if Howard can help me, like, explain the contract part of that, but, I mean, it's. From what I think, we were told that once the village is no longer a village, our contract.
Nope,
No,
your contract is honored.
until its expiration. And
Yep, and that's why we are negotiating a contract with the town. And what I've told them is make sure you have the village's CBA, and if there's anything in there that you want, talk to your friends who you know who work for the village and ask them what they like in their CBA, and make sure you ask for it when we
Why are we
renegotiate this
getting
contract.
this now when the vote is gonna be happening soon, when.
The vote's happening November 3rd.
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't make us feel good now. I mean,
And then that's why we're motivated to work towards a contract with the town, if that helps you guys. You know, how many contracts have I negotiated with you? I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good track record. I feel like, you know, I just negotiated a contract with the town general unit that we're pretty proud of as well. So like,
I mean, to our extent, we backed him for supervisor.
Sure.
Thinking that once he got in office, that these talks would happen sooner than 6 months down the road, closer to voting time. I'm just gonna be honest.
we're trying to manage the law and the prescribed path that New York State General Municipal Law, Article 17A has laid out. And if we can come up with a creative way to also get a new contract with the town, like what we're doing, right, is uncharted territory. The idea that I would encourage the town's bargaining unit to go ahead and get a copy of your unit and talk to you guys. That's not been done before.
But nobody's come to us and said.
I'm telling you this right now, I'm
I know that,
explaining it.
but we've been for, like I said, for 16 months.
Because
You've been hoping to talk to before this moment.
It's just, it's
Nothing of this got mentioned before I was here at the village. I should say.
Kyle, you have to come up, if you're gonna
Come
talk.
on up. Let's make it as easy on Ariana as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, so this stuff has been mentioned, but like you said, you worked with us for 10 years, right? You basically, you're saying, trust us.
That's correct. And I'm telling Kitty the same thing too. I'm telling Kitty the same
Wait,
thing.
hold on, let me just be clear about this. There's theoretically, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's a current negotiation with the town union. And in that, I'm just restating this so that I make sure I'm clear about it. so that in that negotiation with the town union, the Tim and the town executive team are trying to say, you have to include these things, you have to include this, something you were saying earlier, that guarantees certain, benefits or whatever for the village employees that are gonna come in and become part of the town, you know, after consolidation, if it happens.
Right, so probably the most, in terms of like looking at the two CBAs from 10,000 feet, right? The salaries and the contributions to health insurance are pretty similar, so that can be tightened up. That's not a heavy lift at all. The biggest difference is that the town employees do not have health insurance in retirement, whereas village does. So that's exactly what the town should be asking for. Also, the way that the health insurance buyout works in the village, which is something that I was very proud that we negotiated years ago, which is a very uniquely generous situation. I'm gonna tell the town they should be asking for, you know, exactly the same thing.
So if the town union agrees to incorporate these things which are to their benefit, so you would think they would want those. So if they agree to that, then when if the consolidation happens, then there's a seniority thing that has to be transferred over, or what are the other?
You keep your seniority. So that's not entirely correct. It's partially correct as it pertains to civil service. Yes. But in terms of who has, you know, a vacation or a day off preference, or who gets an overtime assignment over somebody else is based on seniority and bargaining unit. That, you know, I still think that, and I can't speak for the other bargaining unit. I mean, I don't know what their plan is or what their thoughts are in regards to additional employees coming into a unit, but they are not necessarily automatically going to fall in seniority within that unit. So that's not accurate. And you're asking for trust, and you know, Tim, I think we do have a relationship. We've had a relationship for a lot of years. I can say that when the dissolution plan was going on in a public meeting, you know, Mr. O'Sullivan, some of the things that you said in that public meeting are not the things you're saying here tonight.
What, thanks.
You know, if you want me to call, if you want me to say what, you know, what.
I've been very consistent on my.
You know, we raised these issues over a year ago. And you as a person sitting in the crowd that night basically said that these guys, because we were talking about retiree benefits. Your comment was that the retirement is the same. When we were talking about retiree health insurance, you had indicated that they're all gonna die at some point anyway. What does it matter?
No.
It may have not, it wasn't exactly said that way, but that's pretty much what you said.
No, okay, so
You've taken a complete 180.
No, no, that's not true.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not what happened. I
was there.
So
I was there.
And
I knew your demeanor. I know what you said. I heard what you said. And you were dismissive to all of those concerns. And it's a complete 180 what you said here tonight. So I was a little surprised.
It's, no.
Can I jump in here for just a second?
Yeah.
Wait, just let me comment on this. I'm very pro-union. The retirement benefits have nothing to do with the town.
Correct.
Okay, and that was the major point I was making, okay? That was 100% of what I was saying. Because everyone was coming in and saying, this is gonna cost the town this, is gonna cost the town that. And every time we talk about retirement, this happens. It happened recently when they said we should fire this person, they should lose their pension. You can't do that, it's against the law. And as a union person, you would defend someone's pension forever, okay?
Correct, it doesn't happen.
Okay, so that was my point I was making. Now, there are costs that are gonna go on, okay? But I did say that those costs will eventually end. And why will they eventually end? Because people eventually die. That's what I said, okay? And those things were to clarify the New York State law on what's going on. That was to be very crystal clear, because people were saying that the town was gonna lose money on pensions. That is not true. And you know that was said, and you know it was false, You didn't correct it, and I did. Okay, so, you know, when people talk about pensions, it muddies the water. Pensions are completely separate from the town.
You're
This
absolutely
town
correct.
could go, this town could get run on top. Please let me finish.
Clarify
Please
what
let
we
me
were
finish.
talking about.
Please let me
Let's
finish.
clarify what we were talking about.
Okay, so I was being very clear and using evidence of like what this was going on, and that's what I was talking about. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as a person sitting in the audience, I hadn't done the deep dive onto each individual union thing and what's going on and all this other stuff, okay? But those 2 points I was making were factual and clear. Okay, and yeah.
Yeah, I think the issue was when he said that.
The pension was clarified, and we, at that point, clarified what we were talking about, and that's when you became dismissive and said they're gonna die anyway.
Right, he was talking
So-
about something else and it felt past, that's all that was.
Stop doing he said, she said, because we can look back at videos.
Well, it's a matter of trust.
yeah.
It's a matter of, trust was brought up.
Yeah,
I was just pointing out that your demeanor tonight was 180 from what it was.
Which is actually a good thing.
that's a good thing, yeah.
So,
Can I just?
Wait, Alan was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
make
yeah,
an
just-
interject,
yeah.
okay.
so Joe, you brought the issue of not being informed, you know, and being in a state of, you know, stress, understandably, for the past period of time, many months. And I think one thing that I'm observing this whole process is that I certainly have been totally uninformed, you know, about what's going on. And I think that this process is a process via which we're getting informed. And so I don't think the information was intentionally withheld. I think people were kind of developing the knowledge as we've gone. And so we're at a point now where we have more knowledge than we did before, and hopefully that's being shared. And so I don't think it was a willful miscommunication or lack of communication. I think it's just a process that we're going through, and that more information is now available. Hopefully we're sharing, and hopefully the very real issues you guys are bringing up are continually to be concerned. Hopefully there'll be more good ideas about how to resolve this thought positively.
I mean, I just to like clarify with like Lauren too, and for you too, like our representation with CSEA with Howard has been great. He's been my union rep for 21, 22 years I've been here. The stories that we hear about UPSI from and from our rep, and my personal experience, I don't know, Kitty, if you were on a board when my wife worked for a town, representation is not good, and we feel strongly with our representation. I don't know
And
that how we can have, I don't feel comfortable with their view.
And as a staff, you decide whether or not you want representation and
Yeah, but
who
we're
is-
not town staff, and once.
But you would be, if consolidation is a yes vote.
One thing I would say is that,
I think it was my
Yeah.
turn. Thank you. Okay, so from what I understand, if consolidation is approved by all the town voters and all of those voters, you will become members of UPSI.
No.
No,
No.
no. So so the union at any point can decide who they want. So if you guys,
When you say the union,
so the employees of the town at any moment can get together and say, hey, we want to be represented by the Teamsters. And they can pass a vote, and they can go approach the Teamster and say, hey, we want representation. So if you can, please,
no,
because
I still do that. So currently, the option that
Talk's
you
over.
have would be to join UPSI.
So,
And what Sean is saying is that as members of UPSI, you would have the opportunity to say we want a totally different union.
yes, you can change the lines whenever you want.
On day one. you
so
become-
the answer to that is, the town of New Paltz is a larger bargaining unit. These are same or similar titles. These village employees are automatically going to become part of that bargaining.
And if,
Now, if the majority of that bargaining unit that is currently only town employees, and when the village employees come into that bargaining unit, if the majority of that bargaining unit want to go with a different union, they have the option. There's windows of opening that allows that to happen. And it's prescribed under law when those things can take place. But for all purposes, if this moves forward, they will become employees and members in that bargaining unit.
Okay.
They don't necessarily have to be members, that's optional, but they will be members of that bargaining unit, no longer represented by CSEA. And from CSEA's perspective, this isn't just about the loss of the bargaining unit. This is about what happens to these guys and that have spent their entire working lives supporting this village. That's really what this is.
So I just want to finish and then I will defer. I really like your point about the culture. And I think what has impressed me in the 14 years I've served as a town board member is how well town and village employees share services. You know, Henry W. Du Bois is a perfect example. Village does its part, town does its part, but sometimes you do each other's part, and that just takes a phone call. And there's a lot, you know, when the water main breaks, it doesn't really matter who you call. You guys are gonna be there, Chris is gonna be there. It works the way it is. And what I want to be confident about, just as a resident, but also as an employer, is that culture of cooperation will survive this transition. And what we need is to hear from all of our employees that you feel that this culture of cooperation can survive this kind of change.
So, and again, this is anecdotal, but anecdotally, we have heard of a lot of toxicity in the town highway department. That toxicity does not exist with this group. There's literally no drama whatsoever in that village DPW garage. Anecdotally, we have not heard that to be the case.
Well, anecdotally.
And that is a very huge concern. I know at least one gentleman that is petrified of going to the town.
I will put that in the box, but what I will say is that what I have observed is that when there's a water main break, everybody gets along. So
we always work good with them. Right. We have no issues with that.
We're talking about among the staff within the highway.
And most of that department doesn't have the length of years in there with revolving door for a very long time.
Right.
Yeah, and it's.
Okay, I don't want to make you guys on.
So just to pivot on, just to talk about that for a second. So if you guys have more seniority, when you go into that new unit, you would get all you would come in with your seniority. So yes, you will come in with your seniority. Okay?
Why wouldn't
they? Yeah, maybe.
But that doesn't mean.
You're shaking your head, but you're not.
They come in with their layoff seniority and only their layoffs.
But not title. Sorry.
No,
They would be considered new employees into that bargain.
What?
I would, so, you
That's
know,
not a thing. If you go into it, there's no such thing in a union as a new member and an old member. You're members. You're telling me that you treat your new members crappy and your old members superior as a union?
Do you know
That
what
makes no sense.
do you know what seniority is?
You're saying the union itself is treating the senior employees better than the junior employees?
That was never said.
Well, so if you.
Seniority is the basis in almost every bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
For certain preferential things to happen.
And they're gonna get that. That's gonna move
They're
over.
gonna be new employees coming into that union.
I don't.
They're
That's
new
not-
employees into that bargaining. You cannot force that seniority. into
Right,
that
well, we're
bargaining.
gonna address that, Howard. I think you're trying to just lay landmines, honestly.
No, that's true.
That's what we're
Not-
You're gonna come in at the same level you're at.
So you're telling me the town employees are gonna accept.
For the purpose, right, so.
Yeah, and if we're not doing it this way, then we're not doing consolidation, okay?
For the
Fine.
purpose of.
Fine,
For
if
the purpose
we're not,
of-
if we're doing it the way, what you're proposing, we're not doing this.
Well, I want to be clear what I'm saying, because I think you're misunderstanding.
Let's be crystal clear, because the landmines that you're trying to drop, because you're trying to torpedo this for a bunch of other reasons, if.
I only have one reason.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I know.
your job.
For the
And
purpose
so
of-
if we're gonna do at all what you're suggesting, I will be opposed to consolidation.
So I just want to be
Thank
clear.
you.
I just
That's
wanna be
it, that's
clear.
it.
Yeah.
I just want to be
That's
clear
it.
what I'm saying.
That's
They're
it.
gonna come in with the same seniority you have right now. So if you're the top guy, you're still the top guy. If you have 20 years in at this town, and you go to the town from the village with 20 years, you're gonna have 20 years there. Okay?
If you could get the
Yes.
bargaining unit to agree to that, then fine.
They're correct, and if they're not agreeing to it, I'm opposed to consolidation.
Yes,
That's fine.
that's it. That is gonna happen. I'm not gonna consolidate unless that happens. I'm with Tim. That's something I,
That's
yeah, that's
I just.
it. Like, it's gonna happen that way.
No, Joey, that's not true. This is what I've told you guys continuously. I've told you this.
Well,
You,
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
you ain't know what I'm gonna say yet. Like you said, we've had a working relationship, all of us have working relationship with you for 10+ years, right? You know when the door's open, when it's closed, and the code to the door. You could have came in and been transparent this whole time.
And I have, Kyle.
When have you walked into the shop?
I was here 2 weeks ago. I walked over and you wouldn't even look me in the eye.
Yeah, because.
I know.
You're making us the chip.
No, I'm not making you a chip on the table. I am only interested in consolidation if we're preserving what we have. I've never wavered from that. And there's something else going on here, and I know what it is.
So I wanted to
Can you
just
tell me what
add,
it is? Seriously, can you tell me what it is?
No, it's not about you. I'm fine with you.
I'm just
So
gonna
you,
pull us back
so
in.
you think this
Wait,
is about
hold on.
CSEA's perspective for a bargaining unit of 15 people? That's what you think this is about? No, it's about what happens.
Okay, well then let us deal with it. Let us
You're only
deal
about
with it,
what
Howard.
happens.
Let us deal with it,
If
Howard.
you can get another bargaining unit to agree
And that's
that
what
new
we'll do. And if we
employees,
can't, then
coming
I'm opposed to
in,
consolidation.
new employees coming in,
No
will
problem.
have their seniority
No
over
problem.
people that are already
Yes.
there, then I stand corrected.
So then the union will agree to it. They'll be
So
fine.
I would like to say one thing though on this
Go
though, is like, since some of these newer developments regarding and like newer understandings, cause it's been a working process. Regarding the labor issue, I think it will be very worth, doing more than just looking into, but really digging into, like some sort of intense sunset clause, different end dates. And really, pushing, contract clause in the Constitution and Taylor's Law, like as far as we can to ensure these protections, if voters do choose to consolidate. I think that door is totally open, in a way that, maybe it wasn't before. So that, I just want to put it out there that very much committed to that.
Can I just say one thing?
Please.
So despite all the strong feelings, for me, this has actually been productive because I actually didn't know that seniority was a big factor. I knew that retirement benefits were an issue or there was concern. I didn't know that seniority was a concern, valid concern. So for me, just I'm more informed than I was before. Obviously that's a valid thing to be concerned about, And the other thing I would just say really quickly is that my personal experience working for decades is that if you're in working for various companies, is that if you're with a group of functional people, life is just so much better than if you're not. And I think there's probably a certain amount of people, if they're in a dysfunctional group, and I'm not saying that the town is, but I'm just saying if there was, that would be so happy to be with people that are functional, and that it's very possible that that's how things could develop. Even if this is true, which I'm not saying is true, but that you guys would be the leaders for that sort of, it's like in a ship, you can have happy ship, you can have unhappy ship. And if you're on a heavy shift, you know, it's, people are happier. Get that Monday.
I have one quick question.
Sure, and then I wanted to move on
Okay.
so that we can finish our 3 agendas.
Is the head,
Only one conversation at a time, please.
he's got that, so whoever has I'm not sure if it's an issue of seniority or job description. But whoever has that equivalent title at the village, it's not only about seniority and salary, it's about job description. So it feels like you need to be, I don't know who has that equivalent title at the village of head of that department, but that person needs to be secure that those duties will not change. And I suppose we should look at those organization charts to see, have you guys seen the organization charts of what, and do they answer your questions about people staying in their lane or their position? And if not, let's talk some more.
All right.
I mean, we're not here to be hostile, we're just here because we felt like our voices needed to be heard,
Yeah.
because like Rich mentioned and Alan mentioned, they haven't really heard from village employees and the concerns that we have. And we're by no way, shape, or form here to start arguments, we just want our voices to be heard and our concerns to be heard, because it means a lot to us.
Yeah.
We're one big family here in this department. When something happens, life or death, these guys are, if not the first, the second to know everything that's going on.
Joe, and I apologize if you think that I forgot that, because I
forgot
well,
that.
but let me continue, because like, I heard you guys loud and clear last year. And not only did I hear you, but I completely agreed with you. Right? The opportunity to consolidate only makes sense if you protect and preserve what you have.
Yeah,
Right?
we
So the fact that like we're continuing to work on one pagers and JCAs and tee up all these things and reverse engineer a bunch of public hearings out from a ballot referendum, that's what we've been busy with. But there's been no change whatsoever in my understanding about what is important to you guys and what you need, and how staff like yourself and the various other people in the village and the various other people in the town, that's what local government is. It's you guys. And I've never not understood that. I've never stopped believing in that. And I'm sorry if you think that I have.
We just thought that you would have addressed these concerns a little
And we are.
sooner than.
We're balancing
I think
like knives that are on fire.
Yeah, I think it's more of a communication issue than an intent issue.
Yes.
Yeah, and that goes to the point of like, you know, you're telling me like, oh, you didn't look me in the eye. Yeah, dude, I was mad. Like, I'm mad.
Yeah, I sensed that. And I realized later, I was like, huh, what's going on? No, I only realized that after you went to the village to talk to them instead of asking me. So you were mad at me. You were mad at me, but you didn't tell me. I didn't know that until I realized you didn't look me in the eye. And then you went to the village board and spoke to them without telling me, hey, Tim, man, what about those 100 conversations that you and I had in 2025?
But that's exactly what I'm.
Which never went away, which I believe in wholeheartedly as the most important thing as far as, you know, moving forward. If consolidation happens, we must protect and preserve everything that you guys have created.
I don't think that there's any weirdness.
I just.
Yeah.
Seriously. Just like me not coming to you, you didn't come to us.
Because I didn't change anything. I didn't get mad at you.
Oh, wait a minute, so what Alan said was that there
So,
sounds
you
like
guys need a
there's a
hug, be the best.
communication issue, which there sort of is. I'm new to this process, but Tim and Alex both have really been your cheerleaders this entire time. It's only been 5 months for us working on this. I know you've known that this is a potential change for you for longer, but we didn't have information until February, March, when we started our meetings. And what you said before about family and together, I've heard those words come out of Tim and Alex's mouths.
You know, the meeting minutes that Kitty keeps saying that
Yeah,
don't
I wish they
exist?
were here now.
These are the meeting minutes. This is what we say in these meeting minutes, Alex and I.
I'm hearing is that you didn't hear those things and you've been wanting to hear those things. If I've been privy to it, I know how much they care about you and they're paying attention, but you haven't heard that. So I'm sorry that this hasn't
And we
been.
watched a lot of these and.
No, these are the
ones that-
steering committees where we're developing the one pagers, where we're answering questions, where we're anticipating
learning.
problems. When the attorneys are like, wait, did you consider this? Did you consider that? The consultants are like, what about this? What about that? And we're like, no. This is the way it has to work. This is the way it has to work, so
Yeah.
these staff are protected. That's what Alex and I repeat over and over and over in probably every single steering committee meeting that we do not have minutes for.
Which now would be refreshed.
If only Kitty's advice had been followed.
Oh, gosh. So,
So to your point about Chris and the similar title at the village, so Chris is an elected superintendent, a highway, so the village head of DPW is an appointed position. So, and I don't know how any of that coincides with the consolidation or what that plan is.
Is he part of your bargaining unit?
He is not.
No, then you probably shouldn't try to represent him.
I'm not, I'm just pointing out what the difference, because she raised that as a.
okay, so I think this was really awesome, and thanks so much, guys, for coming, because it's, I hate speaking for other people. You know, I've had that happen for me so many times myself, and so I just really appreciate you taking the time out of a Wednesday night
Yeah,
to
really.
share this, like, in person. And yeah, I think we do need to start moving on to our next bits of the agendas, though, because we have 2 more meetings after this tonight.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks
guys.
so much, to be
Appreciate it.
continued. On the consolidation topic, are you all cool moving on to the next item? Cool. Thanks, everyone. I want to. Oh, and my mouse isn't working, that's fine. So MS4 mapping grant application. I just want to share a little bit of, here, we will wait, of background. So basically, should I move and then second in discussion? Yeah.
Sure.
I'll move to approve this item regarding MS4 mapping grant application. Tim seconded it. And just a little discussion very quickly. Basically, both the town and village intend to submit a joint app through the consolidated funding application. So when you hear us say CFA, that's what this is, for funding to complete mandated GIS mapping of our stormwater infrastructure. So Walden Environmental Engineering would be retained to prepare the application for the non-agriculture, non-point source and municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4 planning grant, MPG. The application package would consist of location and applicant information for the town and village, a complete description of the scope of work, including a statement of need and alignment with the Regional Economic Development Council's strategic plan, affected water body segments, improvements to local potential environmental justice area, DEJA, if you ever see that written out, that's what that means, or disadvantaged community, DAC areas, adherence to relevant smart growth criterion, a proposed budget and timeline, letters of support for the project, and other required documents. The funding amount requested is $125,000. If awarded, the contract would require a local match of 10%. And so if awarded, the infrastructure to be mapped would include outfalls, which was already completed for the town by Walden, storm sewer structures, including catch basins, the storm sewer conveyance system, locations where storm water is received from another MS4 or private storm sewer system, locations and details of post-construction stormwater management practices, municipal facilities, focus areas, and any discharges to impaired waters. The applications due and will be completed on or before July 31st. And the total fee for Walden to complete the application is $7,000. All in favor? Aye.
One question, are we
Oh.
defined as a disadvantaged community?
That's the whole. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know.
and that's in Mike's note on this, so, it's just something to keep in mind that,
I mean,
which is fine, it's just, it's a point. We get points for that.
Yeah. Basically, the whole note is what I read really fast. Sorry about that. Awesome. So next we have our, LT library plans. I think it's just an FYI for all of us that our, library plans to be on November's ballot. On the back of it, which what is called a 414 referendum. And so it's in the agenda, but just we want to put it out there. The language would say pursuant to 259 1BI of the education law of the state of New York. It'll ask, shall the annual contribution of the town of New Paltz provide in its budget for the LT Memorial Library, a free association library located in New Paltz, New York, be increased by $59,080 annually to $903,080 annually. Did we have to make a motion, like, to let this?
That usually comes to the town board at budget time, so I guess it's fine to do it, to be aware of it now.
Yeah, because I know they got the signatures and all of that,
That's its own line on our budget, that's its own. Yeah, I mean.
But it's not part of the town budget though, right?
It's not,
Yeah.
but it has.
You're just saying like,
Discrete on.
sure. So you're just saying historically, timing wise, it's a little bit later. I think, June was motivated to just get it approved.
Okay.
yeah, so I'll move to, approve this. And
Second.
awareness of this, referendum. We got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Cool,
Did we vote on the MS4 thing?
yeah, we did. You said aye. I think you were the second too.
Definitely was the second.
Yeah, sweet. So next we have the, a return of the resolution regarding New York State DOT to create a middle school speed zone. So.
I already got a ticket in Kingston, so yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I'm.
15 miles an hour.
Yes. I worked on that one.
So I move to pass the joint resolution requesting the DOT to create a middle school speed zone.
Second.
Discussion, I know there were some notes still in it, because I'm just doing everything live 100% of the time, but I'll take those little side notes out.
Can I clarify whether it's the segment of 299 that is adjacent to the middle school or the segment of
Both.
south? So both, whatever mileage or yardage next to would be a 15.
Yeah. And to be clear, this is something that, like, when I swear to God, we've sent them so many resolutions, but apparently not this exact one. So we have to do this in order to like get that conversation on the table, really. So I'm sure this is not the end of this. It's not going to magically change the district, the speed there, but we can get it going. Okay, cool. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next, we have our Juneteenth resolution. So do you want to like round robin it? I feel like it should be read into the record though. I'll do it fast. Whereas Juneteenth is a holiday commemorating that day in 1865, which marked the effective end of slavery in the United States in Galveston, Texas. And whereas on that day, one of General Granger's first orders was order number 3, which was read aloud to the people of Texas and stated, quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equity of rights and rights of property between masters and former slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and free labor," end quote. And whereas the celebration of Juneteenth allowed the freed enslaved people and their descendants to recount the memories of that great day in 1865 when freedom was proclaimed, and also served as a release from the pressure of settling into new territories. And whereas while Juneteenth is a time for celebration, it is also a time for reflection, education, and self-improvement. We continue as a community to work towards the goal of rehabilitating the historic Ann Oliver House as the home of the Margaret Wade Lewis Center, which was at the Ann Oliver House that will preserve the Black experience in the Hudson Valley using the lens of free and enslaved lives in Ulster County, New York. The mission of the center is to engage, empower, and educate and heal the community through history and culture. The MWLC hosts our celebration for Juneteenth, which includes commemoration of our local Black ancestors, a community drum procession, lunch, performances, tours, and kids crafts, and so much more. And whereas today, Juneteenth, as we celebrate the National Day of African American Freedom, New Paltz recognizes and celebrates that a free Black community began to thrive and contribute to the political, social, and cultural life of this village and town as early as 1827, when New York State ended chattel slavery. And whereas in 1997, Congress recognized June 19th as Juneteenth Independence Day, and whereas the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, founded and chaired by the Reverend Ronald Myers, was committed to making Juneteenth a federal holiday on par with Flag and Patriot Days on June 17, 2021. President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, making Juneteenth Day a federal holiday for the first time in our nation's history. And therefore be it resolved that the village and town of New Paltz recommit to commemorating Juneteenth as a day of celebration where we choose to focus on Black joy, finding the positive nourishment within self and others that is a safe and healing place. We celebrate the life and achievements of Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis, along with local Black leaders whose lives continue to define freedom for every American through their achievements, such as Essie Lewis, Executive Director for the MWLC for Black Culture and History, Ulster County's District Attorney Emmanuel Neji, the first Black Nigerian American to serve in this position, who studied at SUNY New Paltz, Kate Hines, Ulster County's first poet laureate and New Paltz longtime resident, and Floyd Patterson, world heavyweight champion, St. Joe's Church deacon, whose home is a designated local historic landmark. And be it further resolved that again, with this year's Juneteenth Jubilee, we will continue our commitment to hold Juneteenth as our collective day of independence and freedom, in which we all take part and from which we all learn. We are all uplifted by remembrance, and the celebration of Black joy is revolutionary. We celebrate the vibrant contributions of Black life continually makes to our national and local culture through resilience, perseverance, and determined commitment to freedom and justice. And all in favor? Aye. Sweet. Next up, we have our first ever resolution commemorating June 2026 is Black Music Month. And I can read it really quickly.
Maybe just to be resolved.
Okay, so, and we'll share this out widely. We just have a lot more musically inclined folks on the board, this year than ever before. And our deputy mayor, who's ill tonight, is like obsessed with dance music. So we've been talking about doing this for a while, because of the, rich Black roots of EDM. So, let's see, now therefore be it resolved that the village and town of New Paltz designate June 2026 as Black Music Month in order to honor the work of musicians, music creators, other artists, fans, and other communities in creating, uplifting, promoting, celebrating, listening to, and most of all, dancing to Black music. So I move this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to share that out widely. And with that, I adjourn the joint village and town meeting for tonight. And we'll let the town take the table, and the village will convene after that.
Okay, I move the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
I move the June 26 warrant in the amount of $1,778,139.64. All in favor?
Aye.
I move the authorization to adopt the cyber incident notification guide.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I request authorization to approve payment of $1,770 to Gordon Svensson for consolidation discussions, and that should be from the B fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we talked about this earlier. We were getting counsel from our historical labor attorney regarding consolidation. I move approval for $2,152 from the B fund.
Second.
All in
So the
favor?
discussion, if it's coming from the B fund, does that mean that we are expecting to be reimbursed for half by the village?
No. Now, we discussed this at our,
Well, we have to refresh it.
okay. What we discussed at our last meeting is,
Actually, we just vote on it.
well, I mean, we can explain it again. So the village paid for the dissolution study last year. So,
I just need to comment on that, because that was the true solution of that.
oh my goodness, there's no material difference between the guts of a dissolution study and the dissolution study details that would be included in a consolidation agreement.
Well, except that the town didn't get to vote on the dissolution study.
What, it's information that we needed.
It's a study.
If they're gonna
Just
use
vote on
it as the basis. Okay, you are using it for the basis, I accept that, but I don't understand why we're getting billed for $75,000. The village did reimburse us.
So we're also trying to pursue the grant from the LGE, Local Government Efficiency Program, through the Department of State, where we used some of that grant money, the village was able to secure some of that grant money to help pay for the dissolution study last year. And we're hoping to also apply some of the town's bills and submit that to the DOS. That's the moving target. Our fingers are crossed that we are successful. We will see.
I don't understand how we can use the fund that is funded by fees that are paid for projects in the D fund to.
It's also been historically funded by property taxes too. It just hasn't, the property tax hasn't been levied recently because it had such a fat fund balance.
Exactly, so
Yes.
it is not funded, it's not a taxpayer funded line.
It is a taxpayer funded line.
No, not now. I mean.
It's a taxpayer owned asset
That is funded by fees, that.
because the fees have been flush, right? And because,
So
I mean, to me, it's like what you're discussing is actually like more fodder for why we should be doing consolidation more than anything else.
Well.
Because we have these funds that don't make a whole lot.
Village that we each pay for half of these bills.
Yeah, and we also have a whole funding formula gymnastics that we do with the Memorial Pool, right? And town and
Well,
village
we
staff have to
have-
argue over that every single year. Yeah, I know, this is what we
Well,
do.
That
This is what we do. What percentage of our time as boards do we do doing this stuff? We should run a government. We should run a government and stop doing this stuff.
Let's just vote on it.
So you're saying that the town is going to fully fund all of the consolidation expenses?
We can't tell.
The village paid for the study last year,
How much?
which was 43,000. Half of it was paid for by a grant, and we're gonna try to continue to use the remaining grants that could be eligible for the town.
I'm voting against this.
That's great. I'm glad you're doing that.
We got the list of expenses from Gene today, so let's add into that the list of contributions so that we understand how this is being paid for. So I'm voting no until we get a new sheet that. shows-
Okay, I'm gonna, so I've moved that we, pay the labor attorney for the consolidation discussions. All in favor? Kitty, for no. Next item is, authorization to approve payment of $7,267.72 to LaBerge for consolidation discussions from the B fund. All in favor?
Aye.
Kitty, are you a no?
No, I'm a yes.
Okay. Item number 6, request authorizations for payments of $9,500. That's payment number 1, and payment number 2, $2,750 as illustrated on page 4. This is regarding the Edmund software for tax collection. Someone want to second my motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then pay Joe Mariello's firm to transfer $846,000 or $500. This is for the closing of the Humboldt March conservation easement. Someone want to second it?
My second is, and I'm sorry, I changed my vote from number 5 to no, I did skip with that, so.
Okay, so number 5, let's make that clear. Kitty is voting against paying.
I'm voting yes on Edmund.
Okay. And so then yeah, did we move the marsh vote? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is request for authorization to pay $520 over the scope of services with Yi Tuchin due to the unanticipated community meal program. So this is basically just a budget modification, but it's still coming out of the same,
There's the $18,000 contract that we approved.
I don't know, the original now. But it's basically a budget mod within the Office of Community Wellness. All in favor? Aye. Authorized to approve paying 2026 summer tuition reimbursement for substance use courses at for a staff at the New Paltz Youth Program in the amount of $2,969.20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then request to authorize approval to the New York Planning Federation, $250 to cover the registration fees for Adele Ruger, John Gatto, to attend a one-day training on the 9th at the Wallace Center in Hyde Park.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is request authorization to increase the LaBerge contract to 22,500 from 5,800. So this is a mistake. We have to clarify this because there was not, I think what we're doing is we're mixing the money that was paid to LaBerge to write the LGE grant with the consolidation effort. So I'm gonna table this and come back to it at the next meeting because I want to get that language corrected. And then I move that we adjourn the town portion of the meeting. All in favor? Aye.
I move to open the village only portion of the agenda for tonight. All in favor? Aye. I move to approve tonight's only one conversation at the table at a time, guys. Love
Sorry,
you.
that's
But
open.
yeah, it's hard. Okay, I move to approve the resolution regarding bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sweet. I move to authorize the 3 resolutions on the agenda all at once regarding our CDBG Small Cities Grant application. Discussion, just real quick, just to jog everyone's memory. Mark Flower had given this awesome presentation at our, couple meetings ago that basically described all of these in depth. So if the public wants to know more than they can find just clicking the links in the agenda, they can go there. All right, all in favor?
May I ask a question about this?
Sure.
And I think I'm throwing an item into the consolidation discussion, but it's related to CDBG because my understanding is this and maybe other grant programs are dependent on the community qualification relative to income, average income and income statement. And the question just is that whether any of these awards that we've received historically from CDBG would be at risk post consolidation.
So the answer to that question is that our wastewater situation, our sewer plant, we got dinged in the past for being out of compliance, and that's what gets us the points and stuff for these particular grants usually. But to your point about like census data and all of that, there is a process for if voters were to choose to consolidate us. There's basically like a mini census that gets done, to figure out the hamlets census data that would impact it, because you are right, the village population, 80% of the village population per the last ACS survey, which was redundant, ACS, rent our homes, 43% are poverty level or below and stuff like that. So very different vibe, but there's a mechanism for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right, reports. Anything planning board?
The biggest item on in the meeting yesterday was the Woodland Line project expansion. And I'm not versed enough to be able to say whether there's something we should be concerned about.
And I think we'll be seeing each other soon enough with the village only meeting, if any updates happen in the meantime.
It's big and complex.
Yeah.
in its way, and so I just don't share.
Sounds good. Any ZBA stuff?
I did not read this.
Right, sounds good. And I didn't get a building planning zoning monthly report linked here in time, but, will for our first village only meeting, and it'll be lots of awesome info now that we are getting way more caught up on our rental registry stuff, so, it's a kind of good problem, all the catch up that has to happen. Yeah, so we'll leave that for now. And then the item that we had added, at the approval of the agenda's time, the Downtown Historic Preservation District. So just like a quick summary to let you guys know, just behind the scenes, what I'm working on is something that Tim had worked on. And this goes back to 2022 COVID era. And our amazing Historic Preservation Commission, basically put together this local law that would be Downtown Historic Preservation District. We did pretty much the whole process, had public hearings, all that jazz. And then, the final steps of notifications that you have to do to all the properties just totally fell apart because of the time that it was. And, I think also admittedly, at the same time, we were looking at rent stabilization. So I probably caused to the chaos too, added to the chaos as well. So I won't just blame COVID, I'll blame myself. But we are circling back into it. I think it would be a really good idea, for us to basically look at this. I'll have much more information and documents and the proposed law and all that stuff drawn up in the process for us at our next village only meeting. But just wanted to put it out there, as some of our friends and neighbors and other community members, are, expressing concerns about, preserving downtown historic vibes and all of that, passage of this local law that would create this district would be one way to say, I hear you, I see you, and to to actually address that. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Cool. I think that was it. So motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
We got an eye from the public. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I'm so hungry.
Never got, or I never got that meeting. But it's funny, good because I was